At the beginning, the sounds were more American than Bohemian. There was a big parade through downtown Ennis with a war hero as Grand Marshal. Air Force Major Bernard Talley had come all the way from Baltimore. Last year at this time, he was in a North Vietnamese prison, and he had been there since he was shot down in 1966. A lot of other people were there, too, and because of them, the population of Ennis this weekend has about doubled. The sights include native Czech costumes. A lot of the townspeople dress up in those. Some of them were made at home, others were ordered from a place up in Omaha, and a few, the most expensive ones, came from the old country itself. Then there's the music, polka music. The first Czech farmers brought it with them about 100 years ago, and it's still going strong, so strong, in fact, that they even dance in the streets. For lunch, there's kolache, the traditional Czech pastry that local women have been preparing for the past month. But before the kolache comes klobasi, the highly seasoned sausage of Bohemia, sort of a forerunner to the hot dog. The people of Ennis say the idea of all this is to enjoy life for a couple of days. And apparently it does work that way once each year on the first weekend in May. Jack Hill, Channel 8 News on the Move.
St. Stephen, St. Florence,
birth control devices are something that's put in a food bait that the female coyote can pick up and will prevent her from conceiving for that 1 year. The tranquilizers or devices would be a chemical that would simply tranquilize the animal in the trap or from another device so that he would be uninjured and you could do whatever was necessary to prevent any further damage. The repellents that have been experimented with in the past, and we've already had some failures, mainly we haven't had a chance to test everything, or our research people haven't. Some have been tried. They were sprayed on the female sheep. Not only they repel the coyotes, but they repelled the bucks too.
Hey, Shark.
We're about as good as anybody. You know, drag racing is a great equalizer up on the line. When the light goes green, you got to be ready. So even with a real good time, you can still lose. But I think we got as good a chance as anybody here.
Looks like you're putting maintenance on your car now. Have you had some trouble?
Yeah, we blew our good engine this morning. We went up to try to make a run, and we lost a main in it, and that was the engine that we had set the record with. And we came back and put this engine in the car, which we've had a lot of trouble with. This engine hasn't been running properly, but we've been doing match races with it, trying to get it tuned up. Of course, now we've got to do something with it because if we want to go any faster, that's just about the limit of what it can do in the condition that it's in.
Was that your problem today when you came up to the line and?
That's when the other engine blew. Yes, we lost the oil pressure. We come back, pulled the pan, and the mains were burned out of it.
Nerve was the name of the game at the Scout Show today. Each show offered some challenge, riding a barrel like a bucking bronco, for instance, or wiggling through a row of tires in split-second time. If you were the fearless sort, you could take your chances and jump in a rattlesnake pit. However, most scouts weren't that nervy. They preferred to climb watchtowers that almost toppled and perform other feats that tested their nerves without risking their lives. I found out something very interesting about scouts. They like you to participate with them. That's how I got in this predicament. Walking a monkey bridge. They tell me that tiptoeing across this tightrope teaches you how to cross ravines, builds up your confidence and your muscles as well. Well, let me tell you, all this monkey bridge did for me was give me the scare of my life. I found out I'd make a chicken scout. For Channel 8 News on the Move, this is Martha McIntyre at the Scout Show in Dallas.
Would you please come forward if you're in the crowd? What are you after? Let me get over this.
You on TV, the camera, you on TV, man. Get out.
Because we have already experimented with a few chemicals in each one of these categories.
You'll be sore.
I bet you can't get on top. That's on TV. I want to be on TV too. Hi. Can I just jump down?
Oh, come on. Just come on, crawl.
It'll lessen injury if nobody's under when you fall. You're doing fine.
Hey,
6 of these seats will have new occupants, and because of that, the new City Council will have the kind of diversity it's not had before. That diversity will include 2 women, 2 blacks, and 1 Mexican American, which will give the new council a percentage of blacks and browns about the same as in the total Dallas population.
Why do you ride 100 miles on a bicycle?
I don't know. I think just to see if I can do it, just to be able to do it, say that I can do it, or know that I can do it myself.
What starts hurting first?
I think, on me, I think it's my legs that start hurting first. They just always build up pain.
Were you going to try to do this again pretty soon?
Yeah, in September there's a double century coming up, which is 200 miles. I want to try that.
Oh.
And there's a race next Sunday out at Richardson somewhere.
Under the direction of so much work in the past few years.
The maypole is the finishing point. Race to the
Okay, girls, hold up. Go down here and see what's going on. Nancy, you stay right here and I'll go get Hop.
It's not clear what impact this will have on the issues of the next 2 years, but one thing is clear: the new city council will give Dallas its first ever black mayor pro tem. Councilman George Allen has wanted that position for a long time. He thought he had it 2 years ago, but then the council picked someone else. This time, though, Councilman Allen has the vote of all 5 of the incumbents, along with the vote of at least 5 of the 6 new council members, unless some people change their mind at the last minute. To be mayor pro tem, in effect, the vice mayor of Dallas is largely a ceremonial position, but the title takes on added significance with its first black. And with the election of George Allen as mayor pro tem, this council will give another indication of its break with the traditions of the past. Jack Hill, Channel 8 News on the Move.
Well, my husband doesn't mind. He says I can do anything I'd like to do. The children, especially my son, thinks it's a groovy idea. He's just going to go around school bragging about his mamas in the army. And I don't know, the girls, they didn't care.
You've got more people buying low-lead gas because of this increase in automobiles. And the fact that most of the companies now are charging less.
Military justice. Military justice. So help me God. And we're all pleased to have you with us. Congratulations.
I worked 3 years at St. Paul. That's why St. Paul surprised me. In regular hospitals, they have a team. Let's see. I worked 3 years at St. Paul. I've been working quite a bit.
Well, not in this type of competition. There's too many good players to be able to to feel that way. It's very many established players that have been in this situation before and that have been able to win in the big matches, and so I don't think there's any particular favor for this tournament.
Given the fact that it's your first full year on the tour, though, you've got to be just very, very pleased with the consistency you apparently demonstrated.
Well, it's been a great year. When you say the first full year on the tour, I've been playing professional tennis now for 4 years, but it has been the first year with WCT,
right.
And so I have been very, very happy with the results this year. I really didn't think I'd be able to do quite so well against the depth of the competition that they do have in WCT.
Would you have any recommendations for changes in the tour structure for next year?
Well, I'd like to see, I think as a player who's done pretty well, had to play most of the events that WCT has, I've played too much so far. I think the other players that have played in the same amount of tournaments feel the same way. If this was the end of the year, it would be great, but there's a whole Grand Prix circuit to be played after this. And so, and we can pick and choose, really. We don't have to play any particular amount of those matches. But at the same time, I think that possibly during these 17 weeks of WCT play, 15 weeks is too much.
Group A had the bulk of the traveling. They had a schedule that went from Brussels to Johannesburg, back to Gothenburg, Sweden, and then over to Montreal if one made the doubles finals, which was just completed last week. But the real grind was just the number of tournaments in succession without a break. I haven't had a week off since the third week in January, and will not have one off until the second week in June, after the Italian championships in Rome.
Does your tennis suffer as a result?
The tennis goes up and down, yes, which is one reason why I just think that Stan Smith just must have something that none of the rest of us have. Because I just really don't understand how a guy can peak like that for such a long period of time without really having his game suffer. And although the players in Group B, my group, thought that at the lower levels, that is in the first 2 rounds, Group A was noticeably weaker than Group B. Still, if you're going to win the tournament, you have to win 5 matches, and that means you're being on the court 5 days out of 7 in a week, in successive weeks, and that's a lot of tennis.
The 5 recommendations approved by the City Council this morning include using $6,700 in revenue sharing funds for physical improvements to the jail, also counseling for prisoners through volunteers from area church groups, the posting of jail rules in English and Spanish, additional medical services for prisoners, and a pre-trial release program set up through the Junior Bar Association. The 6th recommendation calls for the city to spend $71,000 a year to contract with the Volunteers of America here on Avenue J in Fort Worth to process drunks arrested in the streets. The jail committee chairman, Taylor Gandy, says drunks are a major problem of the jail.
It's the feeling of the committee that this would greatly alleviate the overcrowded condition in the city jail today, and practically everyone that has spent any time on the problems in our local jail has come up with the conclusion that the overcrowded condition is probably the biggest problem facing the city today. And
therefore, I move that we adopt the first 5 recommendations of the committee report, but take no action on number 6 until a later date when additional financial information is available and other avenues have been explored.
Second.
Rather than spend $71,000 a year with the Volunteers of America, the City Council would rather spend less money to take care of the drunks that are arrested, 11,000 of them last year in the city. So Mrs. Rimmer and Mayor Pro Tem Ted Peters are going to meet with members of the county government and the county hospital district to see about the possibility of setting up a separate treatment center for the drunks. They will report back to the City Council in 2 weeks. Jim Green, Channel 8 News on the Move in Fort Worth.
The celebration is planned for the evening of June 2nd and will involve delegations from all 50 states. The entertainment has been confirmed, and Bob Hope will host the evening. In a news conference earlier, Colonel Samuel Johnson explained to me what this kind of national tribute means to returning POWs and their families. I can't think of the word now. Cut. It's not it.
No, you got one for the first one. There's the 7-Up. There it comes.
It's only get 5 cents for this one.
Yeah, that's right. That's the one 7-Up. The other one was a non-deposit, the beer bottle. Let it go through. And it's kicked off.
Back. No, the single bottles don't come back. They just go through the other side.
That's right.
Okay.
From our own pros. So I'm going to sit at your seat, and I want you to take over as mayor.
You make that seat look real good. Thank you very much.
Now,
Secretary.
Mr. Mayor, on any issue that you've done your research before you take a stand, then that raises a question with me.
Mr. Gilmore? Aye. Opposed?
No.
Mr. Mayor, this roll call is for the 8-3. No. Councilman Terrell?
No.
No. Councilman Murr?
No.
Mayor?
Aye.
Aye. You have 4 ayes.
Mr. Mayor,
Within a year, if he has a year to run, or
appoint him ourselves.
Courthouse.
Did that, well, did...
Simply is to acquire food. Under my substitute, you still have consumer protection. Look at what other states and take the time to see what other states have done as the approval of the insurance commission. Now, I'm hopeful, like Mr. Bly is hopeful, that we'll find a time in the future.
Committee with a pretty strong vote, and I've talked to the Senate sponsor, and then I don't know, you probably go back to Dallas on weekends, but
it rained there.
It rained here every weekend.
Neighbors in this attractive White Rock residential area say Dr. Waldemar F. Henniger underwent heart surgery last fall. Since then, they say, he had been depressed, had not practiced medicine, and had threatened to kill himself several times. This is the house where Dr. Henniger, his wife, and 4 children lived. Early this morning, the 50-year-old anesthesiologist, his daughters, 6-year-old Teresa and 9-year-old Mary Frances, and one of his twin sons, 7-year-old Mark, were found dead upstairs. The other twin, John, was treated and released from the hospital for a gunshot wound in his arm. Mrs. Henniger, also a doctor, is in critical condition at Parkland Hospital following surgery for 4 gunshot wounds. It was she who managed to alert a telephone operator following the shooting. There was no suicide note, and apparently no real warning that the man was going to turn a gun on himself and his family. For Channel 8 News on the Move, this is Judy Hanna in Northeast Dallas.
But ironically, it was a racial matter that gave the new council its first controversy, the question of single-member districts. The old council had approved a plan for redistricting that would have enlarged its membership by 2. Former Dallas Cowboy Pettis Norman got the controversy going by suggesting that some of the new council members had changed their positions on the issue. Norman said the plan most acceptable for minorities would leave the council at 11, 8 of them elected from single-member districts and the other 3 running at large. The debate over the plans lasted for more than an hour before the council voted 6-5 in favor of the plan approved earlier. Jack Hill, Channel 8 News on the Move.
The House of Representatives today approved that so-called competitive rate plan for automobile insurance. The House members debated the plan for about 2 hours, but they left it pretty much as Governor Briscoe had requested it. Now, it doesn't mean, if it becomes law, that companies can immediately begin trying to lower rates below each other, because first they have to get approval from the insurance board, and the insurance board first has to be satisfied that lowering those rates will not ruin that company. I asked author Don Cavanis if he can estimate an overall rate reduction that we can expect.
Almost every significant, meaningful piece of legislation is shaped, killed, or pushed through, depending on what the corpus lobby wants. At the hearings that we have on all the bills, many of the members sometimes even fail to read the bill or the bill analysis and just wait for the appropriate corporate lobby to come up and tell them what's in the bill, and they're really not interested in what's in the bill. They're just interested as to whether or not they're in favor of it. And I think that's been probably the most disappointing feature of the legislature.
We looked to west of us and we heard a big noise coming. And as we looked further, we saw it was a funnel. We didn't give us much chance to run inside the building. Half of us got in there, but half of us still stayed outside. And as it picked up the trailer with campers up, I managed to grab hold of one of the boys working with me and scoot him down against the building to prevent from getting hurt.
we in Dallas wanted to do, to a
nation of people who have paid a tremendous price for our country.
I think we can best answer that by saying that upon our return, it's been apparent to us that the vocal minority has silenced itself, and the vocal majority is now coming to the forefront, and this will lay in the face of everyone what this country really stands for, and we would like to propel our country on into the future to greater achievements, and I think this little event will just help do that.